We are back. Brand new episode of the GYGB War Report Show. I'm your co-host, Roberto Flack, joined by my PNC, R.O. Diggity. What is goody, fam?
Oh man, chilling, man. It's September. It's the first week. Back to school, but also back to some real live action with these fights. So let's have it.
Yeah, man. So the fall season officially is underway
No,
now, man.
I'm
Well, I
sorry.
mean, really.
Back to some college football. Back to college football.
Well, hey, man. Yeah, well, I don't want to speak too much on college football as far as what transpired last night from my I'm still you to the death, man. But wow, man, didn't get a good start to the college football season down here in South Florida, man. It's annihilated. But to your point, yes, college football usually starts off like that sports fall season. There's people that they're not gonna rock with the NFL, but a lot of people still are. That's starting next weekend, but the aficionados here, we're boxing heads. We're heads of all sports, really, but this is a boxing show, obviously. But the fall season, man, really starts after Labor Day. It's what's become kind of the standard in the last several years. And what a way to start it off with a fight that I think many of us were thinking was going to happen anyway. Danny Garcia, Shawn Porter, but now the caveat it being for the WBC welterweight title that Keith Thurman vacated sometime in May when he was scheduled to fight. He had to bow out. Thus, he went and vacated the title. But before we get to that, man, I want to get your opinion on.
I hope. So before you get into that, let me ask you an icebreaker question real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you mentioned Labor Day. So I'm going to ask you a question. Because, we're up here where we have, 4 seasons. And down there, you guys have probably like 1 or 2. So after Labor Day, do you wear white or not wear white?
I don't know, man. Down here, man, it's we got kind of different rules down here, man. We don't, while like come November, December, everybody's putting their pullovers on and everything. We're still rocking tank tops and everything, man. So we live by a different creed down here, man. But it's in general, man, I gotta say, just the Labor Day weekend, I'm pretty sure in other parts of the country, people were doing barbecues and whatnot. But South Florida has been one of the most dreariest, or has had one of the most dreariest Labor Day weekends, man, I can think of, man. We just missed like this tropical storm that's like right underneath us. So we dodged that, but it's been rain nonstop since like Friday, man. So it's just been like kind of ridiculous down here, like everybody cooped up in the house. But I did get a chance. Though I didn't think there was fights on Saturday. There was some boxing on Facebook, which for those who aren't aware, Golden Boy started their they have this deal now with Facebook where they televise fights on Facebook Live. So I got a chance to see Ryan Garcia, who is one of these young prospects, man, that we are kind of keeping an eye on, but he's been somebody that many fight fans have been very critical of, I guess just because of his attitude, his cockiness, for not really not fighting anybody as of yet. But again, very young. We see him on social media, and he's calling out Tank Davis. He's calling out Devin Haney and this guy and that guy. And so we got a chance to see him last night. I don't know if you say you saw him, ROD, but I always say in boxing, man, we talk a lot about the eye test. And this kid, to me, man, not to get into too much detail, but he hasn't passed the eye test with me yet, man. I mean, look, we've seen a lot of very fast fighters that have good speed and everything, but that's not the end-all, be-all, man. And there's a lot of things this kid does that I think he needs a lot of fine-tuning in. But I think for them, man, the best bet for Golden Boy and for this kid is to keep putting him in these type of cards. You know, I wouldn't put him on a Golden Boy pay-per-view or undercard or an HBO undercard. Like, he's not ready for that. Like, these type of fights, or even those YouTube joints that Golden Boy does from time to time, those are the type of fights he should be in right now. He's not ready for that upper echelon. And look, to be honest with you, man, I need to see more for me to really go out on a limb and say, yo, like, I think this kid can compete at a world level. Like, right now, I don't think so. Like, we've talked about it, but what's your take on Ryan Garcia, man?
Well, you saw me go like this. And that was because you called him weird. I'm going to go on a limb and tell you this. I think that Golden Boy is trying to develop the next it. You know, we have a situation with Canelo where that could probably be a potential landmine depending upon how he performs this month. So they're looking for the next it, because Golden Boy, unfortunately, has become the Titanic, as we said, you know, for a while. With that being said, I watched that fight and I wasn't impressed. It was fun, you know, with him calling out Tank. The whole Twitter war and the Instagram war was fun. But I left watching that fight just saying, you know what? Yeah, we all get buckled. You know, that stuff happens. It's boxing. You know, you adjust, you adapt. That happens. But just the way he looked the whole fight, it was just like, it left a lot of questions, kind of like left to be interpreted by like imagination, like the what ifs.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, I don't have an answer for him because I'm still trying to figure out who this kid is. You know, besides him hitting the Cobra bag, besides him using a nickname or the moniker Flash, and he's doing these nice little drills, I didn't see that type of stuff in that fight. Again, you know, as he steps up a competition, you hope that he rises to the occasion, but is he ready for that upper echelon right now? Absolutely not. And, you know, I think that, you know, at this point in time, he should stick to the Vogue magazines, you know, with the car in the background, taking the little pictures and the selfies and all that stuff. You know,
I mean, I would say for him, man, well, real quick, there's, you know, we're going to respond to some of the chats. We got Real Boxing Talk saying that he has clear talent. He's obviously very raw, but you don't beat former ABC title holders at 20. Now, look, he has a point there. But the thing is, again, man, like I guess we're kind of in the notion of seeing if the hype matches the talent in the ring. Now, we've seen a lot of guys that had raw talent like very early, you know, and I'm not going to go through the list of names, but
I mean, look, you can even look as far as Tank. Like Tank won the title as, I mean, granted, you know, a lot of things
subjective, right? I know you mean.
Yeah, a lot of things, you know, when we talk about 20 and Real Boxing Talk, I appreciate your comment. When you talk about boxing, a lot of this stuff is based off of time, talent, and opportunity. You know, like, you know, we look at the division, like when Mike Tyson was running through everything. My cousin, shout out to my cousin Kareem, who'll be on the thread. He absolutely thinks that Mike ran through a bad division. You know, and I still think that Mike is still probably one of, you know, obviously when you put everything, you commas everything all together, despite what we may think, one of the greater fighters of all time, you know, just based on what he meant to the culture and everything. But when you look back and you start peeling back the layer, you looked at he didn't have to fight a lot of the Lennox Lewis's and those guys. So him winning a title at 20, yeah, he had talent, but like look at the time, the talent, and the opportunity at that point in time. You understand what I'm saying? Like it was there for the taking. Whereas I believe like if Garcia, if we put him against Tank right now, like he might die.
That'd be bad. Yeah, that'd be really bad.
Yeah, so you know, we gotta kind of slow roll and see where his development might be, you know. But then you get people like Floyd Mayweather where we threw him against God bless his soul, like Chiquinito Hernandez at 21. We thought Floyd was going to die, and he wound up dominating the fight. So, like, you know, everything is based off of your, like I said, to me, your time, your talent, and the opportunity that you're given. I don't know if those things are in his. Do they those three things don't benefit him right now? He needs to take the time to develop so he can get those opportunity and take advantage of those other things. So, like, I think that for me, we have to see a little bit more of him, and he needs to take his career and slow roll it and work on those kinks. You know, don't throw him to the lines right now because it could be to his detriment.
I agree, and I think that's why we're gonna see him more on these type of cards. Like we're gonna see him against, in essence, like fringe contenders, you know, because they need to work those kinks out. I mean, the number one thing for me with him, man, is, and I made the the correlation is like his neck is out there like a giraffe, man. And you know, when he gets in there with punchers, you can't have your neck out there like that, man. And that's like one thing I look for in this fight that I saw in his previous fight. Like, man, he sticks his neck out there, and he did it quite often in this fight. And he did get shook by, it looked like a jab. I think it was a jab that kind of staggered him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But again, man, like with a lot of this, it's like I said, like when we look at certain fighters when they're like 14, 15 fights in, and we're already you know, giving them the A+ or the A- or what have you in the eye test. That's the thing I'm saying with him is like I haven't reached that point with him where I can say, oh, he's improving there, he's improving there, he's improving there. And I get that, you know, they want to compare him to Oscar because, you know, of his looks and you know, all the girls want to flock to him and the whole nine because Oscar's seen that before. Only difference is Oscar kind of before he became this you know, phenomenon in essence, like in the early 90s, man. I mean, he was an Olympic gold medalist. You know, he already proven in the ring what the guy can do. And even at that point, it was still like, you know, people weren't 100% sure with him. Kind of like with Leonard. Like they thought he was just all the pretty boy, whatever, you know, there's just no merit there until we started seeing him in there with top level guys and he showed improve. So maybe we're right happen. I just don't have that. I'm just not as positive that I'll see that like how I was seeing like a lightweight Oscar or a 130-pound Oscar when I first saw like his first 8-9 fights, and with other guys too. So
and we talked about that amateur pedigree, like when you mentioned Ray Leonard and you mentioned you know, Oscar De La Hoya. Yeah, they had the pretty boy looks, but they had the amateur pedigree. We don't really, like I said, we don't know what we're getting from this guy. You know, it's just we're actually opening that bag of Skittles, trying to find that right color right now. We don't know if we're getting the yellow. We don't know if we're getting the red. I think with Sugar Ray Leonard and Oscar, we kind of knew that we was opening that Skittles. We knew we could for sure grab a red or a blue, you know, or red or purple. I don't know what color we're getting with this guy, but guess what? You know, he needs to take the time and really figure out, you know, who he is as a boxer. And go on. You know, again, we know that we've said before that Golden Boy has become almost like the Titanic. And what they've tried to do to resurrect, they've tried to promote people like Canelo, like the good-looking people, you know, and the Ryan Garcias of the world to kind of resurrect them. But, you know, again, you know, it's kind of funny. And I know we're going to talk about it next week. But when you look at Canelo, here's a guy that's probably has Canelo had he has 50 fights, right?
Yeah, about like something close to. Close,
I mean, and honestly, I don't even know who. I mean, I know, but I'm sure half the people don't know who they're against. They just know Floyd, Cotto, and Triple G for the most part. You know, he had 50 fights. You know what I mean? It's just, but you know, they kind of slow rolled it, and you know, kind of put him and pit him against, you know, different fighters to make him look good. And I think they're going to probably do the same with Ryan Garcia. Don't be surprised if Ryan Garcia has a record of 80-0 before he
52 fights.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if Ryan Garcia gets something like 40-something fights. You're like, well, who did he fight?
Well, right, and that's what I'm saying. And that's why I think this whole Facebook Watch deal that they have, look, for whatever it's worth, when I was watching it live, man, at its peak, they had 64,000 views, man, on a Saturday night on Facebook Live. So I was like, yo, like, I can't even be mad at that because not many people would be watching a fight on Facebook on a Saturday night with somebody that, at least on the East Coast side of things, most people don't know. You know, South, you know, SoCal and even California in general might be a different story. But I don't know, man. We kind of have to just, you know, the jury's still out on him. You know, like it's, and I don't think we're gonna really have anything definitive for the next few years. And look, man, we got him, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney. Tank's already a world champion, but like he's still young. All these guys, I think, at some point or another, are gonna fight. We'll see at what level these guys are at by the time they, you know, they do fight. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if he might fight later in the year, man, because it seems like they're trying to keep him busy. He's fighting like 4 or 5 times a year, so we might see him maybe in December on some maybe have another one of these Facebook flashback or Facebook watch joints or what have you. But what I will say before we go on to Danny and Shawn Porter, I gotta say that the Facebook watch experience has been a lot better than the ESPN Plus experience, man. I mean, just overall, man, like it's very to the point. It's right there. You set the reminder. You just go to Golden Boy's Facebook page and you're good to go. The ESPN app, I think they're still working out kinks, and I think it's still like kind of in a beta version, somewhat. But any case, man. So let's jump to the main event for this weekend, man. The first of what I think is, I believe every weekend this month we have not only a fight but a major fight, a world title fight, and we're starting off in Brooklyn, and courtessy of Showtime and
BK.
BK. Shout out to my BK brethren out there, But yeah, man, a fight that we thought was gonna happen anyway. But now, like I was mentioning, the caveat now being that it's for the WBC welterweight title, which was previously owned by Danny Garcia one reign ago, because it was owned by Keith Thurman, and he vacated it after bowing out twice due to injury, or after his comeback, defeating Danny for that belt. Shawn Porter has fought for that belt once prior against Keith Thurman. So both guys have been here. There's somewhat of a fork in the road with both of these guys. I mean, it clearly is. I think one guy in a loss affects the fighter worse than the other in a loss. But, we're going to dive into it, man. But I'll start with you, ROD, man. First, I mean, before you give a prediction, man, like give me your rundown as it relates to, I guess, like what both guys bring to the table that will be effective in this fight.
So, when we talk about both of them, we kind of know they're both animated in their own ways, and what I mean by that is, I remember prior to this fight being set up, you had Porter acting like Hulk Hogan or Randy Macho Man Savage, trying to make the fight. Yeah. And then you had you also have Danny Garcia's dad, Angel, Crazy Garcia, that he would say a couple of things as well. And then you got the dad factor. So you got the dad factors going on. So it's kind of like even right there in terms of like what they bring to the table from, an animation and promotion set. When we talk about skill set, we talk about Shawn Porter. I know Shawn Porter, dad has said that, they've had a vast, he always go back to his amateur. We beat this guy in the amateurs. We beat this guy. We didn't see Angel Garcia back then. We didn't see Danny Garcia back then. But we do know that Danny Garcia fought, shout out to Bud Crawford at that point in time as well. So they both have an amateur background. I would give the amateur background a little bit more to Porter at that point. They're both moving up. They're both didn't start off as welterweight, so they're both kind of moving up. Danny is the bigger guy. Shawn Porter being the smaller guy. However, as people want to call him, the football player. So, he's wide, you know, got the Ram thing going on. But I I will say this, when you look at pure power, I would think that, that would probably have to go to Danny. When you talk about skill, I'm going to say that they both negate each other, and I'm going to tell you why. Um, I think Porter looks so good in training. He knows the right things to do, but it seems like he smothers his work a lot. When you look at Danny, I think people talk about Danny being a counterpuncher, but to me, he's not personally my type of counterpuncher. Like when I think of someone as a counterpuncher, I think of someone finding holes, being active, and being precise. I can't really call somebody a counterpuncher. I can't really call somebody a counterpuncher. I think he's methodical in what he does. I don't want to really call him a counterpuncher. I think there's a difference because when I think of a counterpuncher, I think of someone that's throwing, and capitalizing on mistakes that you're making. And that Keith Thurman fight, it didn't really, with opportunity at a high level for him to prove that. And to me, he looked kind of lost. Whereas with Porter, it was a different type of thing. Even though they both lost, Porter was kind of smothering his work. But, Porter was a more active one. So he was just a little bit more methodical in that fight than I would like him to be. And then to describe him as a counterpuncher. Footwork, I mean, again, you would have to give it to Danny. I mean, Porter's fast, but a lot of times he seems kind of clumsy at times. Strength, just pure strength and athleticism, obviously is off the charts for Porter. With his background, you can see how he trains. Corner, I'm going to have to give it even to Porter. Before Porter even added like the Shane Mosleys of the world and the Barry Hunters, like I think he already had a superior corner compared to them. And obviously speed is going to have to go to Porter as well. So, I mean, again, or IQ and generalship. I mean, it's going to be a tie to me, because I've seen things like, Danny could have made that Thurman fight a lot better than what it was, but I felt like there were times where he just didn't make the adjustments that Thurman made. And if he'd have made those adjustments, that fight would have been better. Whereas like Porter just kind of like, you just kind of know what you're getting out of him, man. And, he does, with him, the knock with him was he had a fight where he whitewashed Adrian Broner, and then he kind of like took his foot off the gas in the 12th round, got caught with something stupid. Like, and I was like, well, who does that? You could have walked away in that fight. It could have been 12-0. And you just kind of like took your foot off the gas. So that's it. Chin is going to go to Danny as well. So that's what makes this fight intriguing to me as we look through those different caveats, because we see a lot of both fighters that are kind of like flawed on both sides. And while some of them, they're high on this end or maybe high on this end, when you kind of tally it up, it kind of goes like this a little bit. So it kind of makes it even to me, when you talk about like that whole tail of the tape and that whole background in terms of what we're looking at, and it kind of makes for a fight that, we all got to tune into and watch on Saturday.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of good points as it relates to both guys, man. I mean, I think the thing with Shawn Porter too, man, that's kind of being forgotten. I mean, he's the longer standing welterweight, and you can argue he's fought the better opposition at welterweight thus far. I mean, even like adding Kell Brook in there, mind you, before Kell Brook fought Triple G and Errol Spence. And then he fought Thurman as well. And Danny, now let me ask you this: like, what's your rebuttal in the sense where when people look at the Thurman fight for Danny, I thought I had picked Thurman in that fight only because that's a style that Danny doesn't want to fight more so than somebody that's kind of coming to him. So like in this case with Shawn Porter, who looks as if he's gonna come straight to Danny. do you think that is something that's going to fall maybe in line with Danny, or do you think Shawn Porter is going to have a lot of success, like really smothering Danny up for like 12 rounds?
So there's three different schools of thought when you look at this. So like number one, to answer your question, I answer is like A, B, and C. Number one, all pressure is different. Like, when we look at different, we can look at different boxers and say they provided different pressure. Like that Tyson pressure to me was a little bit different than that Chavez pressure. You understand what I'm saying? Chavez knew how to cut corners off real well. Like he knew how to negate a jab. Whereas, like I think Mike, after a while, he just came forward for the sake of coming forward. So I think that each pressure is kind of different, and I think Porter provides a different pressure than Danny's ever seen. Like people look at Matisse and be like, "Oh, well, look at that pressure," and I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, I think that's a little bit different from what Porter's providing because you're talking about pressure, but a little bit more on Red Bull." You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit more revved up, that type of like heavy metal type of pressure. You know what I mean? Like rock concert type pressure. Like slam dancing. Um, when you talk about that Thurman fight, because go back to your question again. You said the Thurman fight. Go back to
the Thurman fight to me was a style that Danny more times than not would have trouble with.
Right. So
like when you look at the Khan fight, right? Like even stylistically,
right,
that fight was bad for Danny. But the problem with Khan has always been that he sticks his neck out there a little too long. If he just stayed, and he kept his distance for the majority of the fight, like he'd make his fights a lot easier.
And you're right, and that's where I want to answer the question. So when you think about it, yeah, people would think that Porter is tailor made for him, this, that, and the third. But like, I'll rebuttal, and that's my part B. What did you think about when Peterson fought him? Because Danny Peterson, because because Danny spent a lot of his time. Danny spent a lot of his time on the ropes in that fight too.
I forget about that fight.
Yeah, so like, and which is hence why I think this is why Barry Hunter is there, because I think that, there's going to be some things that, you might see transpire in that fight, from 3-4 years ago that we saw in that Peterson fight that may happen on Saturday, because Peterson, although he lost a majority, decision, he had some success with Danny, and some may arguably say he won that fight. But again, somebody said it was 7-5. Somebody said it was, they had a 6-6. Somebody may say they had a 7-5 for Peterson, but whatever it was a very close fight. So I just think that the Porter fight looks easy on paper because he comes forward. But I also believe, man, that pressure is a little bit different. You mentioned Kell Brook. It's just different. And see, to me, Kell Brook has success with him because Kell Brook, all right, without dissing, is Kell Brook a better boxer than Danny Garcia? Yes or no?
I personally think so.
Yes, he is a better boxer. Okay. Is Kell Brook more active than Danny Garcia?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. That's the reason why he was able to have success against Shawn Porter, because I think he was able to pick those shots well and he was able to be more active. I don't see Danny loads up a lot. So like a lot of that. So when you talk about counterpunching, he's really looking for one punch. Like that's the difference. Does that make sense? He's not really looking to like pop, pop, I hit you like one or two.
I totally agree.
So like those holes may be there, but he may just hit you with ones. He might hit you with you might be lucky if he hits you with a 2, but really he's really looking to hit you with a 1 and really hurt you or get you out of there. So for me, I just really believe that this Porter pressure is different from what you're going to see. So him coming forward, yeah, it's coming forward, but it's not coming forward like Matisse did. It's not coming forward like a Ford Raptor or like a Ford like truck. This is like coming forward, and it's sort of like almost like a I want to say like a Yukon, like a Hemi. Like it's just different type of pressure. if that makes any sense. It's not the Chavez pressure. It's that like relentless pressure. Like it's just weird to describe the type of pressure. He comes, he moves, he's awkward. It's just different. I don't think Danny faced this type of pressure before. Like people can clown Shawn Porter, but I don't think Danny's faced this type of pressure before. I think this fight's gonna be more difficult than what he thinks it's gonna be.
All right, so like ultimately, man, like how do you see this playing out?
I believe that first of all, I don't like Porter's and his dad's complaining in the beginning. Oh, Vada's coming to test us. We're not used to this. All this crap. I don't like that. Just kind of deal with it. But so that it just seems like it's just a built-in excuse already. But for me, if I had to look at things, all things being fair and equal, if I take the best Danny Garcia and put it against the best Shawn Porter, when we talk about who's fought who and where they looked at the best, I'm going to say that obviously the odds are in Danny Garcia's favor. When you look at, shout out the champ side, a lot of those guys on the polls and a lot of those guys that are, sitting there and they're predicting the fight, it's been like, 60% to 40%. I'm going to say that Shawn Porter is a very live underdog in this fight, man. I just think based off of his activity, based off the pressure, the fact that I don't know if Danny's going to be active enough to keep Shawn off of him. Like, he might land that one, but again, is he going to knock Shawn Porter out? Now, granted, no. So here's the other thing that someone said. Someone said, well, Adrian Broner hit Shawn Porter with a hook and knocked him down. And I said, yeah, he did, but let's be realistic. Shawn Porter came in, he was 144 pounds. All right, people forget about that. He fought him at a catch weight. All right. The other thing is, it was, and I'm gonna be honest, I think Adrian Broner looked bad in that fight, but Adrian Broner is way faster, as you and I both know, than Danny Garcia. And I ain't got Danny Garcia being as fast. Like, this fight could play out almost like, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, activity-wise, not skill-wise. Hear me out. Activity-wise, this fight can wind up playing out just like Chavez Jr. and Martinez, where like you got somebody that was just active for a bunch of rounds, not boxing, but just being active a bunch of rounds, and a guy that's not as active, and maybe he lands that one punch and it gets kind of rocky for a second, but Shawn Porter winds up with the decision. I'm just saying Porter, I'm picking Porter because of the activity level. If Danny decides to step up and become more active, he'll probably have a lot of success, and it probably wouldn't be close. But if the Danny we know, I got to pick Porter, man. And if Danny wins, it's going to probably be my majority decision, and we're going to probably have to go back and rematch it because people are going to be crying foul. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that little last part because that's the thing with this fight with me, and we've talked about this amongst all ourselves for like well over a month, maybe longer than that. And you bring up a lot of great points, man. What I'll add is I think with both of these guys, it's just we have to look at where they're at in their careers right now. I think with Danny Garcia, he's coming off like well, not coming off, but prior to the Matisse fight, this was a Danny Garcia was a guy that we were being told was going to fight Floyd Mayweather at one point and was going to be this upper echelon, like elite level guy. And
let me pause you for a second. Why didn't he fight? So let's stop there for a second and keep your thought. Why didn't he fight Manny Pacquiao?
See, that's another thing too. There's different stories, but there was some discussion about there potentially being an offer sometime last year, and Danny wanted X amount of dollars. in this day and age, it's like, who knows? But for me, I feel like Danny's career is kind of split down the middle for me, pre and post Matisse. And I think it's because just of how he's looked since that fight. And I mean, let's go through the line. I mean, you talked about the Lamont fight, the Lamont Peterson fight. We had the Mauricio Herrera fight. That fight, I thought he clearly lost. The Lamont fight, like, you can on one day I might have Danny winning, one day I might have Lamont winning.
What was his best fight at welterweight?
Keith Thurman. Well, as far as the best guy he faced was Keith Thurman.
What was his best performance though at welterweight?
I was gonna get into that. When you look at who he's fought at welterweight, he's fought Robert Guerrero, Sammy Vargas, Brandon Rios, and Keith Thurman, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's everybody. Yeah. So
in Peterson, right? Or he fought Peterson at 140?
I was at 140. It was at a catch.
Okay.
So when we're talking about like legit welterweights, that's what I was saying. Shawn Porter has fought more of the upper echelon of the welterweights that were there. He fought Devin Alexander at 147. He beat they both beat Noel Malignaggi, but he fought Kell Brook when he was still IBF champ. Again, hadn't fought Triple G or Spence yet. He fought Keith Thurman, and he knocked out Andre Berto. And he fought Adrian Granados just now. And you could compare that Granados fight to like him fighting a Brandon Rios or him fighting, and I'd even argue the Granados fight is a better fight than Brandon Rios.
Let's compare to Adrian. Let's compare, and I don't mean to cut your wisdom, brother, but let's compare those Keith Thurman fights. That's the barometer. Let's compare both of those fights. And who had the most success?
I mean, see, that's tough because I feel like Keith Thurman clearly beat both of them. I think Shawn Porter made it a rougher night for Keith Thurman. Where with Danny, like to what you were saying earlier, like he looked like he was trying to land a home run shot, like the whole night. And Keith Thurman, I think he figured that out like midway through, and you started to see like he was just winning those exchanges. And the thing with Danny has really slow feet, so it's like he's not somebody that's gonna be on the move, like he's gonna be there, which is going to leave Shawn Porter. What I feel is going to happen is he's going to be pushing Danny back this whole fight. In the midst of all that, I do think Shawn Porter, because he comes in face first, and he's either going to bulldoze you, or you might land a counter here and there. But the thing is, he's the stronger of the two. I don't think there's really any debate there. I think physically he's the more seasoned welterweight. And I'll say this, man. I feel if there's fans out there, if there's fans out there that think we're gonna be in for this back and forth type of fight that we're gonna be talking about for the next few weeks, man. Like, I hate to burst you guys' bubble, but this might be a really ugly fight, man. And because of some of the things that ROD is saying, I think Shawn Porter knows he can't be at a distance, and he knows that fighting Danny in the way that I think he's going to fight him is going to prevent Danny from really landing, shot to ROD, trying to land the Dracula punch, try to land, the no look hook, and that's the thing. Danny, he likes to give him credit, man. Like, he knows he's not your traditional counterpuncher, but I think he has more power than does. I don't think at welterweight he's gonna have that one punch authoritative shot that maybe he had at 140. And also adding too, man, like, you gotta. I always talk about this knockouts, and we make this this argument with Canelo. You have to look at them. You have to look at who these guys that got knocked out were. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if he would have knocked out a Lucas Matisse, or he would have knocked out some upper echelon welterweights or what have you, or even hurt them, then I would be worried about Danny's power at 147. But I don't really think that's going to be an issue here. I don't think either guy is going to get dropped in this fight. I expect a halfway SummerSlam match. You know, there's gonna be a lot of grabbing, a lot of separation, and I think ultimately, man, when the bell rings, and to your point, man, I think Shawn Porter, for us, we're gonna say, oh, he beat him, but again, man, me and Train spoke about this. I think it's. For me, Shawn Porter was going to have to put on a virtuoso performance to get a decision over Danny in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and you know, I think. Oh, let me go ahead.
No. I mean, and like my prediction, really, man, is I have Danny winning this fight, but in a controversial fashion. Like, I think it's going to be a split decision in a fight that I think many of us will say, oh, not like, oh man, it was like a total. Like sham, like you know, the effery happened. I think it's gonna be a somewhat close fight that people are gonna say, oh well, I saw it this way, oh I saw it that way. Maybe more people saying Porter won, but I think we're gonna see, you know, hometown cooking in this fight, man. And I think Danny, he's gonna have trouble with the pressure, but he's gonna land these little shots that is gonna probably have those judges score those rounds for Danny. And I think it's going to be like a 114, 113 or like a split type of deal. And he's going to be the WBC champ again.
Yeah, I totally believe, man, that, like, to your point, I think that, you know, Danny's never faced this type of pressure. I don't think that Shawn Porter's going to be at the end of any of those left hooks that we talked about.
Right.
I think he's going to pressure him. I think that it's going to confuse Danny. And let me go back so everybody knows, when I talk about footwork, I'm not talking about speed. I'm just talking about coordination. Like, obviously Porter has the speed, but I think that Danny's more on balance than Porter is. That's my point. So when I say
counterpunching too, like that's attributed to when he does land good counter shots, it has a lot to do with like his foot placement.
His foot placement, yeah. But to be honest, you know, I just see Danny getting outworked, out-muscled in this fight, man. I really do. And, you know, unfortunately, man, I think that, you know, if Danny ever decided to step on the gas in this fight and have a sense of urgency, I'm going to tell you something, man. He would have a lot of success fighting this style, man. But he's just so conservative, man, with what he does and methodical, man, that, like, I'm really just trying to figure out who he is at 147, you know, because he hasn't, you know, playing the Angel's advocate, like I asked you, he hasn't had great success against any welterweights. We could talk about Brandon Rios, but, like, who's Brandon Rios?
He really hasn't had. I mean, let's think about it, man. He really hasn't had a real genuine welterweight run, man. He's only really fought. All right, I'll say this. He's only fought one guy that you could really say is a genuine welterweight, because Robert Guerrero was like a lightweight that moved up. Brandon Rios was never a real welterweight. Sammy Vargas was never a real welterweight. Keith Thurman lost to him, and now Shawn Porter was like a damn near, wasn't he like, didn't he fight Usyk in the amateurs like at 165 or something? 165. Like
and then on top of that, I will say this, man. I'm from Philly, and I love Philly sports and fighters, but and my cousin said it, he's a Danny fan. He really looked lost in that Thurman fight. Like, he looked really bad, man. Like, he looked bad, man. He looked really, really bad. And I'm going to tell you something. Don't be surprised if he looks even worse in this fight, man. I don't have him looking good at all in this fight, man. And I think that also, man, that Brandon Rios fight is not a barometer to prepare for someone like a Shawn Porter. And I'm going to tell you something like this, too. He was off for almost a half a year, wasn't he? Whole year.
Prior to that, he had fought
Thurman.
Sammy Vargas. He had fought. Oh, no, wait. Hold on. I'm going to tell you.
Go look it up. I think he might have thought Thurman and then went to Brandon Rios.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. Yeah, because I think that's what it was. I think he fought Sammy Vargas, and then right after Sammy Vargas, he went to go fight. Yeah, that's right. He lost to Keith Thurman, and then he came back a year later, almost to the date, to fight Brandon Rios, and now he's fighting.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, we forget about that, man. I mean, it's one thing to be active, but like Brandon Rios is not a barometer, man, for Shawn Porter. I'm telling you, it's just a different type of activity level, man. And I'm telling you, man, you're gonna see the difference, man, in that fight, man. And I'm sure it's just, to me, the people that Shawn Porter have problems with are the people that give him angles and have a different type of activity. If you there for Shawn Porter, he mauls you, he pushes you back. He's like a tow truck, man. He just latches on and he just pulls you wherever he needs to go. And I'm just being honest, man. I don't think that Danny is active enough to keep him. My dad always said, if you want to beat speed or you want to get somebody off you, you got to have a good jab. Like, that good jab, man, will take you places, man. And, I remember Vernon Forrest, man, shout out to him. Remember Shane Mosley was mauling through people, doing that same thing, active, jumping up, man. He tamed him with a jab really early, and that ended all that crap.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, man, like, for him to have, he don't have that to me, man. Like, he don't have that disciplined, educated, sharp jab that can keep him off him. And I really believe, man, that the people that Porter struggle with, which are Kell Brook, and you can even look at it and say, Keith Thurman, they moved a lot, but they threw a jab at him. And guess what? Unfortunately, with Shawn Porter, in order to have success with him, guess what you got to do? Guess what you got to do to have success with Shawn Porter?
Have a jab.
You got to fight him.
Well, that too, yeah.
You got to, like, listen, you can't sit back against Shawn Porter, because people that sit back wind up like Paul Malignaggi. We don't say they have no power. They wind up like Andre Berto. You got to fight Shawn Porter. So, like, when you think about Kell Brook and when you think about Keith Thurman, they fought Shawn Porter. Meaning they was in there exchanging
punches, right? Exactly.
Right, like with 3s and 4s. I don't think you're gonna get 3s and 4s out of Danny. You're gonna get 1s.
Well, yeah.
You gotta fight Shawn Porter, man. Unfortunately, you gotta fight to keep this bear off of you, man.
Yeah.
You gotta fight. So that's why I don't think that Danny's gonna win, man. I think he's gonna lose because of lack of activity. If he decided to fight Shawn Porter, he would win this fight. He's going to lose because of lack of activity. It's going to be bad too.
I think one of the sticking points with all of us too, with Danny, man, is the concerns like where he's at right now. And I think maybe one thing we question with him is just how eager he really is, or how hungry he still is to be at the top. Because look, let's not kid ourselves here, man. One of these guys is fighting Errol Spence. So, looking past this fight, man, like the mountain isn't like plateauing. And when I look at both guys, Danny's made a very good living. Not to get into his personal life, but he's got a crib down here in South Florida. He's got his crib up in Philly. He's got businesses and things as such, man. And sometimes some of these fighters, man, get to a level where they're content with where they're at right now, man. But that sometimes zaps some of that hunger. Because I mean, to be quite honest with you, man, I mean, this is most people wouldn't fight Shawn Porter if it didn't mean for a belt, which is why I think the fight ended up getting made anyway, because it was for the title. Because remember, we were hearing about this and we're like, well, where's this fight coming from? Or when is it happening? And then Thurman all of a sudden vacates the title. Oh, fight's happening now, So I'm wondering if Danny and team were even looking to have this fight happen if it wasn't for the belt anyway. And let alone, again, like I'm mentioning, you got Bud Crawford there. You got Errol Spence. And I'm not even mentioning Keith Thurman right now because, like, we don't know what's going on with him. So I just look at Danny and I look at just where he is right now, and I can't take too much away from like the training footage that we saw, because they let you see what they want you to see, but he just doesn't strike, and in just some of the interviews, he just doesn't strike me as somebody that is wanting to be great still.
So hold that point. Who's displaying more of a sense of urgency between the two?
Oh, Shawn Porter, for sure.
Exactly. So I think that Shawn Porter knows that if he goes to Brooklyn, to your previous point, he knows that if he's not as active, like, he could possibly lose this fight in the card. I'm telling you, man, don't be surprised if you see Shawn Porter, man, like a crazed madman on Red Bull, just like coming out there, man, and just being the more motivated person. I really don't see Danny as, he's probably motivated in a different way, but I don't think he has that sense of urgency as Shawn Porter has. Like, have we seen Danny say, okay, I'm down, like, I need to make this fight or make this round the best round? Like, I think
in the Thurman fight, I didn't see that from him. Like, I didn't. All right, in all the fights that he's showed adversity, or he's been under adversity, the Herrera fight, the Lamont fight, the Keith Thurman fight, there's nothing in those fights that I saw like, wow, man, like he turned the corner. Like, you could say the Khan fight, because he was getting thoroughly outboxed before he landed the Dracula punch. But again, it's like that, though. I don't want to call. I mean, people don't like to call it luck, and like, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but we've never seen Danny like down and him make an adjustment to where the fight completely changed, and then like he dominated against like a top level guy. Like the Matisse fight, and again, that's why the Matisse fight's the barometer. The Matisse fight's the barometer for Danny Garcia's career, man. If you really think about it, as it relates to his overall best and being in there with an elite level guy at the time, at least, and how he performed under that kind of pressure in a fight that many of us thought he was going to lose. But again, since then, and it adds to my point as it relates to like how hungry is he still, because he's made his money. He's won a couple other world titles since then, but I just don't sense that urgency, I should say. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't sense that urgency from Danny Garcia, man. And look, Shawn Porter in a loss, man. We talked about this too. In a loss, he gets really put into obscurity way more than Danny would in a loss, man, because I still think Danny and Broner is a fight that can happen if Danny loses. Shawn Porter, on the other hand, he's already fought Keith Thurman. He's already fought Broner. You already fought Berto. At that point, like, you're not going to fight Errol. You're not going to fight Bud. So it's like, where do you go from there? So this fight, I think for what can transpire following is that's its own side story for both guys, man. But like, I like all the things you're saying, like, I agree. It's just, again, man, it's like, I look at when the scorecards are being read, and look, man, we're about to hop into a fight next week that we were dealt the same cards last year with what I'm talking about. The fight's over. I'm like, we know who won this. Again, like, I see the same thing. I see this fight ending, Shawn Porter winning like 115, 113, or 116, 112, and then we're throwing the monkey wrench, man.
You know what, though, too, man? It's just, to your point, man, it's just that sense of urgency. And when we use these fights, like what Danny Garcia, the only thing we can lend to is that 140, because he hasn't really looked great against great competition at 147. So honestly, I'm going to tell you, man, that pressure and that sense of urgency, man, is going to play a big role in that fight. And I'm going to tell you something, too. Danny Garcia may be the taller man, but Shawn Porter's the bigger man. Shawn Porter used to fight at junior middleweight.
No, it's weird. It's right. He's the taller guy, But Porter's the real welterweight here.
Sure, and then on top of that, what we got to remember too is I thought that Danny would try to weight drain Porter. I would thought that would be he's not even trying to do that, and I thought that that would be his better chance of winning. If he don't do that, man, like Porter is.
But I think also too, I don't think Danny can even make 144 anymore, man. Like think about it, like I don't think he's at. I mean he's at 147 now. I think because just out of necessity, you know, because they're talking about him going to junior middleweight. I mean, you out of your mind, man. Like. But I think Danny's that right now, man. Danny's been at welterweight for 2 years, you know, and let alone you got to fight for a world title. So the fight can't be at no catch weight unless like you're bringing in millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't. It's Danny from what I've seen, just physically, like he still looks like a lightweight to me. You know what I'm saying? Like he still does, you know. So. I don't know.
The other thing is, the last thing I'll say too is it'd be who of Danny to keep that fight in the center of that ring, which I don't think he can do, man. And that's what I'm saying, man. Like, I'm not a fan of Shawn Porter style, man, but I just really feel like that activity, the fact that Danny's gonna have his back on the ropes, and the fact that everyone's saying, oh, he's gonna be open for that left hook, and I'm like, listen, man, if Shawn Porter is smothering his work, what do you think he's gonna do to Danny? He's gonna smother him too. Like, you don't smother your work and then, like, he's going to smother. Danny's going to get smothered that fight, man. It's going to be an ugly fight, like you said, man. I hope you guys have, like, your clicker and you can flip back and forth to, like, some college football because it's going to be a lot of grappling, just a whole lot of him pushing back. It's just, I don't know. It's going to be a different type of pressure that Danny's seen before. But I'm picking Porter to win 7-5, man. I'm picking him to win, like a very, very 75 at the most, but a very, very thin decision. I'm telling you.
Okay. All right, word. So you're saying he's getting the decision in Brooklyn. I think he's gonna win the fight. I just think Danny's gonna get the decision. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. This Saturday, live on Showtime, for the WBC welterweight title. Danny Garcia, Shawn Porter. So yeah, that's our predictions. I think Train was on my tip too. I mean, I think he thinks Porter's gonna win, but the referee is gonna show up. So we're going ROD's going with Shawn Porter getting the legit full on no referee decision over Danny Garcia in Brooklyn. I think he's gonna beat Danny, but he's not gonna unfortunately get the decision. And we'll see how things pan out for both guys, man, because the winner of this fight is staring at a date with this little fighter that's fighting out of Dallas, Texas. So we'll see how that pans out for the winner of that fight, man. But that's our show, man. Next week, man, woo, we're here. It's already here, man. Canelo Triple G2 is the 24/7 is already out. It's on YouTube. It's on our Facebook page. You could go and check it out there. They did a Golden Boy version of it, you know, where they kind of put on before the pay-per-view telecast, and you can catch that. I posted that as well. So we're gonna get into it next Monday, and we're gonna have the whole crew on. We've been talking about this fight, man, since the beginning of the year, because I mean it has been almost like a 6-7 month soap opera that's finally going to culminate in a fight. We're going to be talking about it, but not only that, we're going to try this for the first time in GYGB history, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. We're going to do a live, and I hope YouTube doesn't cancel us. We're not going to be showing the actual fight live, but we're going to be doing live play-by-play with the crew. It's live simulcast, Philly and Florida. We're gonna have our crew, down here about like 15 of us, and we'll be doing live play-by-play, getting the raw emotion, getting everything out there live as it happens. We get the crazy knockout, another crazy decision. You're gonna see it live right here on Garcia Grill TV, man. So
tell them where they can watch the fight again, because we always get this question.
Which fight?
This fight again. Show where we got Shawn Porter.
Oh, on Showtime.
Showtime 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Eastern. Because I initially said CBS when we first mentioned the fight, like when we first like announced it, but it is Showtime live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think they have some other fights on. I forgot who was fighting, but I mean, I think everybody's just looking forward to the main event, man. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As we always say, follow us at Garcia Grill Boxing on Instagram. Appreciate all the follows on Facebook, Garcia Grill TV. Hit the reminder, subscribe. We got shows every single week. Bunch of content coming at you for this fall, man. And that's pretty much it, man. Join us next week, the official Triple G Canelo or Canelo Triple G 2 preview prediction show, and then follow the following day with, well, not the following day, that's Saturday with the live play-by-play, but also make sure hit the reminder so you get reminded, and then you'll be on live with us, man. So I am Roberto Flack. Shout out to my man ROD, and shout out to Coltrane who couldn't be here tonight, and we'll be back next week. Peace.